Now, I want to talk about house systems because I had a house system that night, the same day I noticed my trailer was broken. I arrived at this place called The Wave in Long Branch, brand new spot, really, really cool. And they have a full house system. And I had a couple questions recently on the channel I noticed where you guys were asking me like, hey, you should do a thing on house systems. Like, what are your tips for all that? And I do work with a lot of house systems. So I figured I'd, do a little quick segment on it, give you guys some tips with that, some good, useful things to think about when it comes to house systems. Number one, always bring your shit. Always bring your speakers, okay? I made a mistake a long time ago. I was working at this place called Union Truss, and I was younger. I was like 8 years younger or something, you know what I mean? And there wasn't a lot of house systems that I worked at anyway back then. And I made one mistake I'll never make again. The bride was like, listen, guess what? There's a house system at our venue. You don't got to worry about bringing your speakers. I was like, great. And I brought one top to do cocktail hour with in a separate room, and that was it, right? That's all I had. It was an RCF HD32A, right? It was it was only 4 or 5 years ago. It wasn't that long because I had the RCFs. But it was the RCF HD32A. It was my first good set of like RCF tops I had. But I brought one top just for that cocktail hour, and that was it. I trusted her. I said, "Oh, it's house system." I get there, the house system is not loud enough for dinner, let alone dancing. It is awful, right? I'm screwed. The only thing, and I'm in Philly, there's no way for me to get back because of traffic and everything. So the only thing I had was one top. And thank God these HD series, like these RCF tops, like they're animals. I did the entire party with one top and the house system, but it was literally trash. And I got through and everything was fine, right? Nobody noticed nothing, right? I was up in a balcony too, so you couldn't really tell what I was using or whatever. It didn't look like weird, but yeah, I got through it. Never again. Always bring your stuff. Never assume that this house system is going to be good enough because usually they're not, right? So always bring your stuff. And I always run a monitor. So I always put one of my tops on the floor. So this weekend I did, I have one of my HDM 45 tops. I put it on the floor right to the next to me as a monitor. Now, number one, it's good to have a monitor because these house systems, typically their speakers are spread out or weird, so you're not gonna be able to hear yourself. So this way you can hear yourself. But number two, the major key with the monitor is if the house system is not loud enough for dancing, right? Sometimes they sound loud early, but then you get 150 people in the room. You get all these bodies in the room. You go to start dancing, and all of a sudden, this is all I got. Oh my God, this isn't loud enough, right? And you realize you don't have enough sound, and it can severely affect your dance floor. If it's not loud enough, I don't care. Dude, prove me wrong, okay? If it's not loud enough, you're in trouble, right? If it's not dark enough and it's not loud enough, this can severely affect your dance floor. If you have a top on the ground as a monitor, now this can supplement your sound, right? So you can easily just turn it a little bit and focus it like on the dance floor, and you can blast that top and have plenty loud enough sound for your dance floor, which will save the day, which is what I did this past weekend. So always bring a top, always use it as a monitor, have it there. Don't have it just in case, because then you don't want to set it up during your first dance set when you realize it's not loud enough. Just have it set up anyway, and no venue's going to argue with you. No, I haven't had one venue say you can't do that. They're always, I'm just like, oh no, it's just a monitor so I can hear myself. I'll just keep it low here, whatever. If I want to blast it later, I will. It doesn't matter, right? You know what I mean? It's just put it there. Trust me, 99% of the time you're going to need it. Next thing is reset your knobs. Okay, set your knobs when you go to set up and you're doing a sound check. Obviously, every system's different. Sometimes you want to run your stuff flat, which means you put all your knobs essentially in the middle, like just even regular, right, on your external mixer, because the house system you're plugging into has legit legit mixers and everything hooked up to it, or the like drive racks or whatever. Like if it's a legit system, you might want to just run your shit flat, let that limit you, and maybe it'll sound good that way. Or maybe you want to adjust stuff on your end. Regardless, make sure you adjust everything. It's a completely different system. You're probably going to have to turn your gains all the way up. And when you're doing this too, bring the system to as loud as it can go. Okay? Like bring it all the way. You should be doing this with your sound system regardless, but I know my sound system, so I don't do that every time. I know where I should be and all that. So I don't really but when you're working with a new system, you want to like as much headroom as you possibly can, see where that limit is, where those knobs are, where those gains end at, and then adjust it in a way where you're doing as least amount of gain on your actual mixer, like your S9 or your controller, and you're doing all the gain from the external, right? Because they're going to have better preamps, so you're going to get a better sound. You don't want your S9 or whatever controller using the clip. So make sure that's not clipping, but you're getting the maximum amount of headroom, right, from the external. And then you should be all good, and then turn it down from there. And then that's, where your limitations, where you can go without it like starting to sound like shit. So make sure you test all that out and do that. Take the time to do that. Get there earlier if you need to. And you're going to have extra time anyway because you're not setting up speakers, right? Also, assess whether or not you should bring in a sub. There's several places in New Jersey where I work that have house systems that I bring a sub into. And what I do is I hide the sub behind my facade. If you guys know my setup, I do a furniture in front. I have my facade behind me that hides like lighting controls, sound stuff, everything else. I will hide a sub back there if I need to. Because the biggest problem I have with house systems most of the time is they don't have enough bass, right? And, you throw one of your subs back there, you're good to go. And I literally run the sub through the monitor and then link the sub to my top as my monitor outside like I always do. And then you're kind of good to go. In this situation, I was at the Wave, and oh my God, was there no bass in the system. It was terrible. There was absolutely zero bass. But you have to assess the situation because you don't want to get yourself in trouble. I was in a hotel. I was on the 6th floor, the top floor of this hotel in Long Branch, right? So the ballroom's on the top floor. Beneath me, was 4 floors of rooms. And I kind of put 2 and 2 together that, wow, they completely nixed, like they completely cut out all the bass from the system because they don't want people in the rooms to complain. And my wedding that Saturday night happened to be till midnight. So I didn't bring in a sub. I thought about it. I almost did. Oh my God, didn't need it. But I had a feeling that if I brought a sub, they were going to be like, what, why is there so much bass? We're getting calls from rooms. What's going on? Did you? And then, you snuck in a sub. And then I'm caught red-handed, And I'm just... I'm just legit caught red-handed. It's not a sub. It's a box. It's a box, and I keep my I don't know. It wasn't on. Santi, you turn it on. What are you doing, Santi? Like what are you gonna do, right? You're literally caught red-handed at that point, right? And you look like an asshole. So I didn't bring in a sub. Assess the situation, but if you can get away with it, if they just happen to have a house system, but they're not near hotel rooms or something, or you know what I mean, or if it's just like a regular venue that just for some reason has a house system, bring a sub in, and they're not gonna know the difference when you're rolling that in. They're not gonna know it's a sub, They never did. Never knew I had a sub, Okay. Next tip, right? This is a big one. Something you guys got to really realize too. I learned this from doing clubs and stuff too. Know the difference between types of like how system's set up, right? And note this, right? Because I think this is a big mistake a lot of people make. Some house systems have speakers everywhere, okay? They'll have a speaker in the bathroom, a speaker in the cocktail hour, speakers all around the ballroom, all around the corner, in the hallway, right? Just speakers everywhere. There's just a speaker in every square foot of this place, right? And some house systems are just like maybe you have a stage or maybe you just have an area where you set up and there's a house system right there. So it's just built-in speakers right there where you set up and that's it, right? There's a big difference here, okay? If you have speakers everywhere, you have to be conscious of that. So if there's speakers everywhere, when you go to dance them, you don't want to blast them full blast because now people, no matter where you're at, if you're taking a piss, it's going to be loud as shit and it's going to be hard to take a piss in the bathroom. If you're out getting a drink at the bar, the bartenders can't hear the drink orders because you're blasting it so loud over there. Because speakers are everywhere, you can keep it at a solid volume. That way, everyone can hear it everywhere. But then the major key is having a monitor near your setup and blasting that. So if you want more, because these systems where they have speakers everywhere, this is how my system was this past weekend. They never have they rarely have zones where you can adjust the volume of one zone versus another zone, like the dance floor zone, the dinner zone, the bar zone, whatever. It's very rare that you have zones like that, right? So if that doesn't exist, the only way to do this is literally just to keep it at a solid volume, figure out what the solid volume for the house system is, where you're not going to blow everybody out, people that aren't on the dance floor, right? And then literally lean on your monitor. Turn your monitor all the way up and lean on that shit, okay? And that's going to essentially be your main dance floor speaker. And you'll get the job done and everything will be fine. It's not the ideal situation, but everything will be fine. And in those situations too, another good thing about a monitor is you can run, if you're using an external mixer and everything, you have the option to run the mic through or not run the mic through, which is very, very clutch. If you're not using an external mixer, please consider it. I have videos on it. Check it out. Trust me. It's so clutch in situations like this because I can take my mic out or put it back in. So like for introductions and stuff, I put my mic through the monitor so you can extra hear me, right? You know, and whatnot. But then later on when I'm dancing them, I took my mic out of the monitor, or I didn't put it in as much. I actually like did it like halfway because I didn't want to get feedback because my monitor's blasting and I'm right there with my mic. I would have got the craziest feedback, right? So being able to adjust that really helps too. But yeah, you know, in those situations, just know that, right? Some people don't think of that, and they're blasting the house system at full blast, and everyone is just, their ears are bleeding everywhere because you have to be that loud for the dance floor, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a monitor, there's really no other way, but trust me, bring a monitor, lean on the monitor, and don't let anybody else's ears bleed in that situation. Now, if the speakers are only where you're set up, right? If they're just set up there, then obviously, yeah, then blast it accordingly. It's just like your regular setup, only it's built-in speakers, you know? And then the other tip I want to talk to you guys about is tape 2 XLRs together. Most house systems, some are RCA, but that means it's a really shitty system if it's RCA. But most house systems will have an XLR, a dual XLR hookup, right? So I have two 25 XLR cables. I tape them together, right? So they're one cable, so it's one cable to roll instead of two, saves you a little bit of time, and then mark right and left on each one so you can hook it up accordingly. The jack on the wall most likely say right, left, and then you hook it up into your mixer, right, left, so you have it all set. And it saves you a little ounce of time. It's a little cleaner because these cables are going to be together. If you run separate cables, it's harder to kind of like get them together. You know, it's just an easy thing to do, okay? And, you know, you can get them made or just tape 2 together with that I don't even have it here no more. I mentioned it in my last show, the non-residue, the 3M non-residue tape is what you want for taping wires. Otherwise, it's going to get like real sticky and gross. So make sure you do that. But yeah, those are my tips, people, as far as house systems. You're going to run into them more and more. It seems like a lot of venues are investing in them. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's because they get like DJs with really shitty speakers. Maybe it's because like a lot of the venues out here sell it as a way to like, as a guest experience thing. Like, well, our house system is specifically designed to only be loud on the dance floor. And then everyone else has a nice guest, the ones that have zones, right? Like the ones that are done right. And the guests at dinner, you know, or the guests that are sitting down that don't feel like dancing, oh, they have such a pleasant experience during dancing because it's a directional system right over the dance floor, blah, blah, blah. Like they'll sell it like that. Or they'll sell it like, hey, your DJ doesn't even have to bring speakers because we have a house system here. So you should be able to get a good deal on your DJ. I cannot stand venues that do that. If you're watching and you work for a venue and you do that shit, okay? You do that shit, you try and say, oh, because the DJ doesn't have to bring his own speakers, now you should ask for a discount. You're dumb. You're a moron. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, okay? All right? You really don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because all you're doing by putting a house system in that probably sucks is basically just making our job harder, okay? Anyway. That's all I got to say about house systems.